Hello, I'm Geeta Nadkarni, and I am going to introduce you to one of our clients whom I love. Even our backgrounds are twinning. I'd love to welcome Azizi Marshall, who runs a program called Revolutionize Your Private Practice for recovering therapists. And today we're going to talk about her journey with Impact with Influence, what brought her to us, and how she ended up making more than $70,000 with her new program. All right, Azizi, let's get into it. So,
Hello.
hi. So, if I were to rewind you all the way back in the day before we started working together, what was it what was going on in your life that brought you to us, that had you seeking me out?
Oh, Gita. So I would say I was burnt out. It was in the height of the pandemic when everything shut down. Seeing one-to-one clients over like hour upon hour upon hour was not only draining myself, but also my team. And it was just I felt like I was living in this kind of like twilight zone where I'm holding all this space and like listening to everybody's trauma of what was going on in the world, and then Black Lives Matter and all these other things going on in the world. And then I would get off of my client sessions and I'm just like, I have no time to run my business or take care of myself anymore. Like I'm exhausted. I can't even be connected with my children because they'll start talking to me and I would just completely dissociate and not listen. Or they'd be like, Mom, are you listening? And I'd be like, no, I'm not, because I didn't have the space to hold anymore. And I knew something had to change. And so I didn't know what that was until I saw what you were offering. It's like, there's something here. I don't know what it is, but it's gotta work.
So tell me what the experience was like, sort of getting on the call, booking the call. Like, did you have any trepidation? Were you like just super curious and you're like, it's curious. Well, there's nothing to lose. I might find out something and I might not. Or were you like, no, I think I might want this? Like, what was going on in your mind?
The funny thing is, I didn't even know what it was. Like, I booked the call and it's like, okay, there's something that can create some change in my life. Something needed to change, and I had no idea what it was. But I was like, for some reason, it seems like Geeta just like gets it, and she understands just like that, just constant creative mind, which is what I was doing. But I was creating all these things that were just creating more work for me instead of being effective in propelling my business to where it needed to be. And so it's like something, there's got to be something here. So I didn't know what it was. I just knew that there needed to be some sort of change.
And I so get that. And this is the power of really great messaging is you don't have to get into the tactical specifics. It's really about communicating energy. And one of the things, I mean, this is why we've done so much work on the deep inner, like, how are you the blueprint of your client? So what Azizi and I have in common, and possibly have in common with you, is that it's almost like creativity is my stress response. Like, I heal myself through creativity, right? But then the flip side to that is, if I'm very stressed, if I'm in that trauma response place, I not only will I burn myself out, but I got plenty left to burn the entire dang team, right? And which is what you were experiencing as well. So
Yes.
give us some context for, like, what did your practice look like prior to working with us? Like, what did you have going on? Who did you work with? Team of how many, etc.
Yeah. So we have a team of about 10, and that's a handful of therapists. And then I've got a few people on the admin team. And I predominantly work with teens, adolescents that are having behavioral issues. They're my favorite. Like, if a teen will tell me to F off and throw a chair at me, like, that's the one I want to work with, because they are the most resistant, but they are the most in pain. And they're showing it through their behaviors. And most people will just write them off completely and not want to deal with them. And for me, I'm like, please bring them to me, because I can understand and deeply connect with that just anger that comes out behaviorally because they're struggling so much. So that those were the clients, if that lets you know where the stress level was for me, that those are the clients I worked with the most. And then my team worked with others. The stress of the pandemic was hard because, as I'm also a creative arts therapist, so we use the arts, we use movement, we're using drama and puppets and masks and all these cool things for people who can't put words into what is really what they're really struggling with. And so to switch to this whole virtual landscape was draining because we didn't have that art form. We couldn't see as they were drawing where they made those subtle pauses. Like, oh, they paused when they were drawing a picture of this, but we couldn't notice it on the screen. So we were missing all these pieces
The
when we
nuances
went
were
virtual.
lost. You had the
Yeah.
raw data, but it was like, I don't know what to do with this. Got it.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. And the clients were feeling that too. Like we weren't picking up what we used to be able to read from them when we were in person.
Got
So it
it.
was just extra like, what are they doing? Can you show me your thing? And it would just be annoying for them. So
Right, right. So what made you decide to sign up?
it was talking to you. It really was. It was talking to you and hearing about just not even what the program was. Like, again, I don't even remember what I signed up for. I just knew that I needed to make a change. I didn't know how that change was going to happen. I had no idea. I just felt like if I were to do this program, that I would be taken care of. And as a therapist, we don't, I mean, we're really good about telling other people how to take care of themselves, but we don't necessarily do it for us. And we definitely don't do it for ourselves as business owners, as private practice owners. And so that was the big piece for me. I'm like, if there's a program that can teach me how to bring in revenue for my business and for my team, and we wanted to expand and we wanted to go global with a lot of the training programs we were offering, I needed guidance. And instead of me Googling everything and getting those crappy, like, print off this free sheet that'll tell you what to do. No, none of them really told you what to do. They just like give a little bit. And I needed just a full on guidance, hold my hand, show me what I need to get done so I can do it. And just hearing all of the high touch support pieces that were involved in it. That's what I needed. I didn't need a worksheet. I didn't need a workbook. I needed absolute support. So that's why I signed up.
Love that. I love that. And did you feel like that's what you got?
Oh, 100%.
So
Yeah.
so tell me, what was some of your favorite parts of the program?
The group coaching calls were some of my favorites because it was like I got to have my own therapy in a way, and I got to feel heard and supported. And I knew that, it took me a couple of group, support calls for me to kind of feel out the group itself. And I just remember after probably the first couple calls, I was like, oh, this is really a safe place where people can bring their stuff. They can be heard. And there's like problem solving involved. It's not just complain. It's, okay, here's the problem. Here are some of the ways that you can address these things. Here's some action items. And I was like, oh, that feels so good. So that's when I was like, okay, that's where I knew I could feel that support in those group coaching calls for sure.
Love it. And what about the one-on-one mindset sessions? Because sometimes, you know what they say, like doctors make the worst patients. And I was curious about your experience being on the receiving end of therapy. I mean, what we don't do is not therapy in nearly the same way that you do it, but it's hypnotherapy. It's still therapy. So tell me about that.
Yeah, I enjoyed my time because it was the hardest part for me was letting go. In order for me to build the program and the structure and this new piece for the business, I needed to let go of some things. So I was so resistant to that because I felt like I had to be doing all the things, and I really didn't. But it did take some time and some processing and understanding what I needed to let go. That was the other part. So I decided that I needed to let go of a handful of clients that I knew they would be taken care of by other clinicians. And it was actually a really good thing for them to transfer to those because they had a different kind of like involvement with the client that I couldn't have at the time. Letting go of some programs that I was creating and realizing this really is not worth the investment of time and resources. So like,
Right. And
shut some stuff down.
right. And that's one of the things that we really look for. So one of the first things that we get clients to do is to flesh out their vision. Like, what does success look like? And then sometimes then when we examine, okay, so what are you spending your time doing? Then we can kind of nudge you gently in the right direction to be like, hey, do you really think this is going to take you there? And if so, let's run some numbers and see if that adds up. And it didn't, right?
No,
No, it
not at all.
didn't.
Not at all.
So that's helpful. And what I love now is that now you have that, you've kind of internalized that same process. So you're able to do it ongoing when now you were mentioning it's like I now know like I have this other client, it's time.
Yeah.
And you have more, does that feel more peaceful now, more confidence where you don't have all the angst that goes with letting it go? There's probably still some grief, but
Yeah. I
yeah.
would say that that's the part that like in business, we're not told about. We're not told about the grieving process of the loss of a project or the loss of a business or the a loss of working with clients or those little pieces that you liked to do but you really don't need to do. And so that was like that was a big aha moment for me in the group coaching calls was the grief process that people go through when they do have to let go of those pieces that they thought they needed but they really didn't. And so there's that double-edged sort of, yes, I'm letting this go, but then also I'm now understanding all these other things that I held on to that I really didn't need to. So you're like grieving the loss of this thing, but then grieving the loss of all the time you've wasted, but then also being able to look forward and saying, okay, all right, now I am more aware than I was before.
Got it. So we had, so with you, we had a really interesting situation. And I remember Maria and I were kind of talking it through back and forth. So Maria was your assigned copy coach, just for context. I'm everybody's coach, but in addition to me, everybody has their assigned copy coach who's going to be your kind of family doctor through the program. So you had two distinct avatars that you could have worked with, right? And we were like, and it felt like a 50-50 gamble at the beginning. And then we bet on one of them. And then
Mm-hmm.
you changed your mind.
Yes.
So tell us about that. So tell us what that felt like.
So I dug deep into that. I was working with high achieving, stressed out women in business and wanting to teach them how to take care of themselves, basically like self-care for the high stress woman. I did all the things. I did the free Facebook group. I did lives with them. And then I realized after doing it, I'm like, this just, it's not landing. It's not landing for them. It's not landing for me. And I think what I had to do was take a step back and realize my original idea in working with private practice owners, that was just a part of that. So like all that stuff I just did was not a loss. Like I got comfortable doing lives. I got comfortable in writing, the path posts for the people
Mm-hmm.
and and writing the script. Like I did the script, the first script for the initial group
Yeah.
that took forever. The second one, I wrote it in a day and then filmed it that same day. Like it, because it just became so instinctual for me to do. So that switch was so needed. But then when I opened up the Facebook group for my private practice people, it was like just exploded. And I was like, oh, this is what it should be like. I shouldn't have to go and like, tell people to join. It was just like, hey, I have this thing. Boom, boom, boom. And just every week we have like 20 people coming on
And
just
this is
because
all
all those
organic, right? You're
all organic.
no ads, no ad spend. There's literally
Nothing.
zero cost to acquire clients here.
Zero.
So talk to me about, one of the biggest things was you had to go, one of the big transformations you had to do was to go from hourly, like small money, to now selling a package, a program, which was maybe the same number of, maybe the same numbers if you look at it over the course of years, but you had condensed the timeline and now it was a much bigger bill and it was all upfront. So talk to me about what that felt like for you, because that was a
it felt
transition.
it felt freeing. Like when I would get off of a sale, it was also like I would sign them up and we're ready to go. And it felt like I'm really going to be able to help this person instead of the one-to-ones, and it would just take forever. And it's like, okay, here's another thing to work on. And then when we meet next, it was just like, it, it took so much more time than it needed to. And so it was nice to know that when somebody signed up for this program, like they're not only getting support from myself, but it's like with you and your team, it's like I had a person that I call her my marketing ninja. She does all of our marketing outreach for my current business. And so she was like, yeah, I could totally do that. And then our mindset coach, she's our clinical director. So she knew exactly, like she would hear, she'd be like, okay, so this is what we're working on today. And it still works today. Like I have some people who they'll sign up, they'll be so excited. And then they start getting nervous, like, oh my gosh, there's all this work and blah, blah, blah. And they start freaking out and they start sending like, 5-chapter emails. And like, okay, so you really need to meet with your coach first before we really start diving into this, because there are so many blocks that you're putting up for yourself. And it's almost like after they meet with her, it's like, I don't get any more emails. It's just,
And is that something you already knew to do, or is that something you learned from the structure that as you went through?
learn from the structure from you. Yeah, for sure. Because there were many times that I would stand in my own way, and then meeting with Steve, it was just like, oh, so that's what I'm doing. Okay, cool. That wouldn't have come up in the group, but it definitely came up in the one-to-ones.
Right, exactly. And that's the beauty of hybrid, is that you don't need to choose. Like your favorite part was the group, but you needed that one-on-one support and it was there. And then when you needed, one-on-one really nitpicky messaging support, that's there.
Yes.
Right? It's like whatever you need, there's a support structure in place for it. And I say structure because I think that's the really big, it was a huge transformation for me. So that's why I know to ask you about it. Because when you're trying to handle all of those pieces as they come up and it's one person and you're doing it all one-on-one and you never know what order is going to happen, and it's a freaking draining nightmare.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And then it makes you doubt your sanity. It makes you doubt whether you're cut out for the job. It makes you doubt whether you can genuinely help people when all you really needed was some structure.
Yes. Yes. And after going through your program, I saw it and I saw how each of those pieces were so important to support the person going through that program. And so after seeing that, like, I don't have the stress of when somebody sends me those 7-chapter emails. I just go, hey, someone take this. And I don't have to. I'm more, I meet with them for strategy and all of that stuff, but somebody else deals with all that like deep shit that like I don't have the time or the bandwidth because of all the other things.
Of
Like,
course.
but I know they're taken care of. Like, that's the
Yes.
other part. That was so important to me. I have to know they're going to be okay. So yeah, so to see that structure with your program, I was like, oh, we're definitely using this in ours.
Exactly. And what's beautiful about that is the person who then takes on this piece that stresses you out, that piece is the yummiest and juiciest part of their day because that is their zone of genius. And they're like, yeah, it's like what you said, like the person you want to work with is the teen who's throwing a chair at you. That's what they want. They want the
Yes.
person who's flipping the heck out, right? And being like, oh my God, what the F do I do? And all my trauma's coming up, and oh my God, I'm drowning. And we're like, great. Steve can help you. David can help you. Bring it. Like, we're not afraid of it. That's the thing. Like, no, there's no dread. You don't have to be like, oh, I have to open this email, and oh my God, what horrible minefield is going to be inside you. That's all good.
Yeah.
We have the
Yeah.
expert to deal with it on
Mhm.
on staff. It's amazing. I
Yeah.
love that. So talk to me about what your life is like now. Because you were
My
talking
life?
about, because you had workshops that you had to even like shut some of the ones that you were doing before, and now that's not a problem anymore.
Oh, yeah. So there were some programs that we shut down because they weren't landing the way we wanted them to. It's one of those things where we have a thing, we try it, we see if it works. If it doesn't, we table it and see what can be adjusted later, like in 2 or 3 years. So right now, the biggest piece is being able to do what I love. It's building those programs for other people. And not only am I supporting private practice owners in how to do that, how to reach into the corporate space, how to make training programs for their community and other businesses, I'm doing it myself, and I love it so much because it's that training piece where people are learning, we're offering that additional support, and we're changing lives. I guess that's the biggest part is we know that these programs are solid, and so when people come through them, there is a shift that we see with every single one of them, and that just spurs us to do more and offer more for our community. So
I
it's
love
really
that.
exciting. Yeah.
I love that. So you said the keywords. You said it's changing lives. Your work is changing lives. Let's talk about all the ways that the work has changed your life. Like, since you've been an impact, like, what are some of the changes that have happened in your life? Professional, personal, you name it, whatever, anything goes.
Oh, Gita. Okay. So all the ways that my life has changed has stemmed from that vision, that very first thing you have us do, where we're like, what do we want our life to look like? And it's like, it's right there. So my husband and I have always wanted to have a lake house. And so we finally had enough money to buy a plot of land, and we're starting the design process of a lake house for our family. And it's a place that he wants to host business parties. I want to host retreats in. Like, all of these things are going to happen at this lake house. We're hoping our daughters get married there. Like, there's all these things that's connected to this. So that we were able to do financially. We were able to pay off our credit card debt, which when I opened my business 10 years ago, we racked up a lot of credit card debt from so many things to just survive. And now it is completely paid off. So that is done. So like the stress of that. And now we're like, wait, all this money that we're using to pay off credit cards, now we can provide more things for our kids. So my daughter just started taking private dance lessons, and because of COVID, like that's a huge thing for her to be able to finally dance again. My youngest has been involved in soccer, like all these things that I couldn't even, we couldn't afford to do, let alone have the time to watch them and support them in that, in all of it. Now we can.
So I just want to pause you there, because how do you see, I have goosebumps. Not only do you have the money to buy the thing, to buy the support, the class, the program for your child, you have the time to go and be with them as they go. Like, my work here is done. This is amazing. This is what I live for. This is fantastic, because this is such a huge core value at our company. So to be able to create that, to see it go out in the world and take shape in your house, I mean,
yeah.
that is all the things.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes.
Amazing. We're going to party at that lake house one day.
Yes.
Yes, for sure. So, what would you say to somebody who's considering taking impact with influence? Like, who do you think would benefit?
Oh gosh. So I want to say anyone, but that doesn't target in the messaging. So I would say anyone who is looking for a change, no matter what that is. If they're feeling like, I don't know what to do, and so something has to change, because that's how I stepped into it. It's like, there's so much that's not happening in my life, or there's so much that's happening that I don't want, and something needs to change, but I don't know what it is. They should be taking your program, because then through the program, they'll figure out what those pieces are, how to navigate them, and then how to solve them, and then create an abundance in their life that they didn't even know was possible before coming through your program.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so happy. So, all told, what has the financial payoff of this been?
It's been, and we switched over to Revolutionize Your Private Practice, I want to say probably about 4 months ago. And since then, we've made $70,000, and we're still, I mean, I've got 2 other calls this week to do. So every month has been just like a blessing, really.
So, you've met and exceeded your expectations.
Absolutely. Yes.
Love that. Well, thank you so much for spending time with us, Azizi. If you're curious and if you're looking for the kind of clarity and abundance and expansion that Azizi just talked about, use the link on your screen, book a call, talk to somebody on my team. If we can help you, we'll let you know. We'll make you an offer. If we can't help you and we know somebody, we work with basically all coaches. We know a coach for just about everything. If we know one of our clients can help you better, we'll just refer you to them. We have 0 kickbacks from it. It's just something that we love to do. Our job is to help you get to clarity so that you can have the expansion you seek. And if you're looking for support on that journey, then that's what we can help with. Thank you so much for watching.